Hello everyone, I'm Strixon from Forgotten Adventures, and this is a quick showcase and setup guide for our new live folders hosted on pCloud, which are available to our adventurer or higher Patreon tier supporters. First up, let's go through what's available before showing you how to get access to these libraries. All the details are available on our website, forgottenadventures.net/pCloud. But in short, we are sharing our assets, tokens, dungeon draft packs, and early access folders. Both assets and tokens are also available in WebP formats. These libraries have much better optimization and also slight compression, making their overall size much smaller compared to PNGs, which should give you better performance in VTTs without any noticeable loss in quality. WebP tokens are also further optimized for use in Foundry VTT. All WebP tokens are now facing south, and all tokens that have their artwork extending out of their bounding box have the intended scale percentage attribute in the file name. Here is a quick demonstration of the intended scale of our tokens in Foundry. Let's say we want to change this actor's token to a manticore, which is a large creature with an intended scale of 200%. Large creatures have an intended size of 2 by 2 squares, and the file name suggests that the intended artwork scale is 200%, which means for the proper intended scale of this token, the scale ratio should be set to 2. This applies to all tokens that have this scale attribute in their file name. As another quick example, medium creatures with the scale of 150 should occupy 1 by 1 grid space with the scale ratio set to 1.5. An important disclaimer for these libraries is that they are live, meaning that we will be updating them on a regular basis, not only adding new content, but also potentially moving files around, fixing spelling errors, or removing files, from early access for example. This means that if you are using software which references the synced files directly, these changes could potentially cause errors, assets disappearing, or other issues, as the original file path of the image might be altered. There is a workaround for this, however, which I'll showcase later in the video. Now let's take a look at how you can get access to these libraries. First of all, you need to be an active adventurer tier or higher Patreon supporter of Forgotten Adventures. You will also need a pCloud account in order to access these folders. You can sign up for free on their website, just make sure that you select the United States data region. After that, you just need to fill out our registration form on the bottom of this page. Invites can take up to a couple of days to arrive, depending on how many requests we have in the queue. In the meantime, we can take a look at the pCloud, specifically the desktop app, which will allow us to sync the files directly to our local hard drive. Installing and logging into the app will create a virtual pCloud drive on your system. This expands your computer's storage without taking up any additional physical space on your device. Accessing the files through the virtual drive requires an internet connection. It allows you to browse your pCloud libraries, which are still hosted online, which means accessing the files requires a re-download each time. As you can see here, this is not ideal for large amounts of small files, as it might take a while for all of them to load in. To get around this issue, we can sync the libraries to a local drive, making them available offline, and thus significantly improving the loading times. Here is the same folder synced locally to my hard drive as an example. Let's see how you can set it up yourself. Firstly, you'll need to wait for the actual invites to arrive. You should receive a notification when you have the app installed. Then you can go to Preferences, Shares, and Shared with Me. As you can see, I have a couple of invites here for showcase and testing purposes. Accepting the invite is pretty straightforward. Only caveat is that you need to create a subfolder where you should place these libraries. This is going to be important for the actual sync function to work properly. For example, I've placed my folders in Shared, FA Assets and Tokens. After accepting the invite, you can just double-click on the specific shared folder, which will open it through your virtual drive. Again, these are only available online until we sync them. Let's also accept the FA tokens invite into the same subfolder. Should appear nearly instantaneously after a quick refresh. Both of these are test folders which contain only a handful of images, just so we don't have to wait for thousands of files to load for this guide. Now that we have accepted all the invites, we can make them available offline with the sync function. Go to the Sync tab, add New Sync, and choose your local folder. This is where you want to sync your files. Again, I would suggest making a new subfolder instead of placing them in the root of your drive. For example, I have made a folder named FA Sync Test on my SSD. This is where a little quirk of how pCloud allows you to sync shared folders with only view permissions comes in, and why nesting them in a subfolder is important. As you can see here, if I try to select the FA assets directly for the sync, I'll get an access denied error message. This is because the sync function only allows you to sync folders which you have added rights to, as it syncs the contents of the selected folder. But if we simply select our FA assets and tokens subfolder, where we have our libraries, it will work without issues. As you can see, the sync test folder on my SSD now has all the files available offline. Files have to be downloaded first, so it might take a while, depending on your connection. You can see the progress in the bottom right of the pCloud settings window. You can also sync to multiple locations. For example, you can sync directly to your Foundry data folder, which will make them available in the app. Important to note here again, as I mentioned previously, is that these folders are live, meaning that files can be moved around, renamed, or otherwise changed. If you are using software which references synced files directly, like Foundry for example, changes to these files can potentially cause errors, assets disappearing, or other issues. As an example, if this Manticore was a synced file and we had to rename it because of a spelling error, the token art would disappear on reload, since the original file path of the image was altered. We will try to keep these breaking changes to a minimum, but it's important to keep in mind that they can happen. As a workaround, you can sync periodically instead of continuously. I'll quickly set up these two tokens for the demonstration. If you stop the sync manually, all downloaded files will stay in your chosen local folder. This folder will no longer get the automatic updates. However, the online folder in the virtual drive will still be updated. As you can see here, I just got a notification that Levy renamed the tokens we used for testing purposes. This would be a breaking change if we had the sync still active. However, if we activate the sync again for the same folder now, it will check all the files and only download the ones that are new or updated, while keeping the originals as well. In this example, our local folder has both the original Devil01 and the Devil renamed, which is the altered file, while the Devil01 no longer exists in the virtual drive. This will prevent the broken links, but in exchange of producing the duplicates, as both tokens are the same, just with different names. Additionally, if your access to the shared folders is revoked, for example if you cancel or downgrade your Patreon pledge, all the connected files from both your virtual drive and also from your local active sync folders will be removed. As you could expect, this also breaks the links, as the files are not available anymore, as you can see in this example. As for Dungeon Draft, you can simply select your synced folder as your custom assets folder, and it should work as expected. And that should pretty much cover everything for this setup guide. If you encounter any issues or otherwise need help with anything, please contact me through Discord or the website contact form. Thank you for watching and see you next time.